Hello, AV friends. Welcome to Chair, the podcast where I sit down with the incredible leaders driving innovation and community within HETMA, the Higher Education Technology Managers Alliance. I'm Erin Maher-Moran, the chair of HETMA's Board of Directors, and I'm excited to bring you into conversations that go beyond the day-to-day of technology management. In each episode, we'll explore not just what our committee chairs do for HETMA, but who they are as people, professionals, and leaders. We'll dive into their career journeys and the moments that shape their perspectives, and the vision that drives their work in higher education technology. Most importantly, we'll connect their stories to the themes and challenges that matter most to our community right now. These are the voices behind the initiatives, programs, and innovations that make HETMA the vibrant professional organization it is today. They're also colleagues, mentors, and friends who have fascinating stories about finding their purpose, navigating their careers, and building the future of education technology. Whether you're a longtime HETMA member, considering getting more involved, or simply curious about the people who dedicate their time to advancing our profession, these conversations are for you. So settle in and let's go chair to chair. So in the chair today, I have Chris Kelly from Creighton University, who's the advisory board's chair. Thank you for being my first guest, Chris.
Yeah, coincidentally, advisory board is the first alphabetically as well. So, we could say
I thought about that
intended.
too. I know, it works out perfect. So maybe that's the way that I'll go about bringing everybody in, just alphabetically.
Coincidence is wonderful.
I know, right? Yeah. So for today's, episode, I want to start off with a bit about your journey, and because I know that it's interesting and it's different than some people in this field, because you made like kind of a bit of a big switch in what your first career kind of was. So, how did you get into higher technology?
So, yeah, and I've kind of talked about this a little bit before. I was kind of all in on social work, counseling, that kind of stuff. I worked at an inpatient mental health facility as the lead counselor. Then I did child protection for a handful of years, switching to voc rehab, and just realizing I was kind of done with social work at that point. And I always knew that I loved, really, I thought more of the IT side of things. And so I thought, okay, how do I switch over? And I was able to keep doing my other job while working on certs, and I started taking like A+ and things like that, just to build me something on paper to show I had any idea what I was talking about. Like a lot of folks, AV wasn't even a concept. The job description for my job here wasn't super clear, and they acknowledged that because they didn't even really know for sure how to sell kind of the idea of what we do. It said IT related stuff in there, so I'm like, sure, let's give it a shot. And got here, started doing it, and loved it. There's so much to learn, and I'm one of those, I always need something to kind of be learning and seeing the new things and playing with new stuff, and there's always that. So just kind of went with that, realized I loved it, and kind of kept working up a little bit here in that area. There's plenty of the IT, because AV really is IT these days. And when I started, they said, we want someone on the team that has more of the network knowledge, because we were pushing into AV over IP stuff. So that was a strong point of mine, and I wanted to kind of keep building on that, and it just kind of ended up being a natural fit.
Yeah. So is that what drew you to that role? Like that you weren't the unknown, or what drew you to it?
So growing up, I loved IT. My dad was pretty technical for where he was with things, kind of setting up his own little in-home network before a lot of people were. With friends, I would, get into some of the low-grade hacker type stuff, just kind of playing with each other's computers, kind of logging into each other's computers, messing with each other, and taking A+ classes, things like that. Really loved it. but then I took my first college class on programming in Java and didn't love it. And that kind of got me to say, okay, well, we're going to take a veer off in another direction. And it was kind of getting over that, okay, programming is not the end all be all of everything that is, technology. That kind of got me to say, okay, let's try again. And because I love a lot of it. And I don't know if it's just because I've had difficulties wrapping my brain around some of the programming language stuff. Like it wouldn't just click and get it. But I'm working through the programming stuff a little bit more because we do have some stuff that's, got global scripter, got some Python, stuff like that. So I've got my EAP, so I can dip my feet a little bit into the programming side again, but I'm definitely super new to that side of it.
That uh, resonates so much with me because my first major in college was biomedical computing. And I thought that was going to be just like so amazing to do. And then I actually started programming. It was like, I hate this, and switched majors. And then I came back around full circle because then after I graduated with my BFA in illustration, I then, was working in AV and was like, oh, well, maybe I'll dip my toe back into programming. And at that point, it made more sense to me. So maybe this next time around, like it clicks a little bit more.
Well, and unfortunately, the people who have done our programming that we've got made it fairly complicated. Some of them programmed a little bit defensively as well. We are working on kind of changing who does some of our programming here on campus. So I'm hoping that by being more involved with the people that do the new programming through it, our integrators, that I'll get kind of a better idea of their flow and how to do some of those modifications to start working my way into it more.
Yeah, hopefully. So thinking about your early days in higher ed AV, which wasn't all that long ago.
Still less than 2 years ago.
Right. So what surprised you about higher ed technology management?
So I didn't realize when coming in how much things were moving towards, being on the network. That was not a concept. I used to, back in the day, I would wire my own car stereo system, or I would wire up, houses a little bit doing just wired connections. I didn't realize how much things were going into, the encoder decoder systems and how much was getting over the network. That completely unknown to me when I first started doing it. I started taking the Dante stuff in preparation for this job, and I'm like, oh wow, like that's resonating with, at that point I was working on Network Plus, and I'm like, okay, there's some connections. It's not just the old school, projector on a card, like we're sending stuff DTP, we're sending stuff over the network. I can get that.
Nice. Yeah. So now I want to switch a little bit more into like personal mission and purpose, but still tying into higher ed AV. So with our July theme being True North, your future you, when did you first realize what your professional why was?
So when I first started walking around campus, seeing activities that were going on, I'm big on when I get somewhere, I want to be kind of all in. So I would look at what events were going on. I would look at different things that were happening on campus. Started participating like in book clubs, participating in like the Inclusive Excellence Council, the DEI efforts. You get people that are just absolute geniuses in a very large diversity of fields here. So I could be sitting and talking with people that just know so much about so many things. And I have a lot of interests all over the place. So just being able to sit and talk with someone today that's a doctor that knows pathology in and out, or sitting tomorrow and talking about someone that knows Mideastern history, just to have these experts in such a diverse array of things, getting together on things that otherwise they would not be together at all. Like a book on, we had one about the meatpacking industry in Iowa recently, and we had people from a lot of different fields coming in and talking and just having that very candid conversation and learning things that I never would have if I would have stayed in a job that was a much more isolated set of knowledge. Like there's a real microcosm on a college campus. And then there's the students, and just they're the future. The people that might cure cancer, the people that might be the next president, the people that might, go be in our House of Representatives. They're the people that are, despite the cliche, the future. And so being able to give them a seamless experience so that they can get the most out of likely the large amount of money that they spent to be here, to try and move on and see what they can do is really cool. And, with a university, unlike a lot of places, when someone leaves a job, they're gone, they're done. But with the university, when we have students do really cool things after they've left the university, like the university still pays attention to that. So we can hear about someone that's an alumni that went and did something amazing at the Olympics or did something amazing with some company. Like there's still that connection to the people that have been here, so you can kind of feel some of that tie in, like, yeah, maybe in some way I helped them get there.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Is such the great thing about working in higher ed, like that potential tie to like something that's greater. And even if we have just the smallest of part in that, it's just still it's something. It is absolutely something.
Yeah, maybe a little vain to think that I somehow had, but whatever. In a grand scheme, we all contribute in some way or another.
Right. I mean, because if that system in that room was not working on the day that an instructor had a very something to say in their lecture and it was missed or left out because they couldn't seamlessly deliver their content, maybe something, butterfly effect, you never know, something.
Yeah. Well, and we do a lot of, because we have our main campus here in Omaha, we have a secondary, it's just a building down in Phoenix, and then we have just parts of a building down in the Dominican Republic. But we do a lot of, live where the class may be happening here, but they're participating live synchronously down in Phoenix. And so to be able to have things that are happening with great people that we could bring here that they wouldn't maybe be able to have real time with them down in Phoenix, like we are giving them opportunities that they wouldn't have had to be able to, despite location, be able to be here, be present, and learn the things in ways that they wouldn't have before had it not been for that technology, had it not been for, having a better quality camera that's able to really get in on if they're doing a demonstration on a certain like PTOT thing or a certain medical thing. You have to get fairly high def with some of that stuff to be able to really translate that message through.
Absolutely. So tell me about a moment in your career when you felt most aligned with your purpose. Like what was happening in your life or in the world in general?
Oh, so when I first started here, we had Global Viewer Enterprise from Extron, but it had kind of fallen into disuse, and there was a lot of bad data coming out of it. We had a lot of rooms that didn't exist anymore, and I just kind of decided this is a project I'm going to take on. And I figured I'm going to learn a bunch of things, I'm going to get this stood up, but the growth that I did through that process, like spinning up new servers, getting rid of the old data, fully purging everything to start fresh, going out and updating code on most of the control processors across campus. At times I really got into that true flow state of like, okay, here's my sheet that I'm working through. Like, this is my thing. This is going to be kind of a representation of me moving forward. But ideally, it's going to be something that gives us that, proactive window into things. And it really just kind of helped me have a good purpose while knowing that this is something that I'm like standing up for the future of the university and like it was big enough that they've had me come in, like, talk to town halls about it and about the process. And, we've got different, tier 0 through tier 3 that are utilizing this now. Like, we have people on the phones that are able to say, okay, I'm going to remote in, I'm going to get into that touch panel. Okay, oh, you just had the mute button on. That saved us a call of having to wait to send someone else out to that room to do the fix. So yeah, it was just an amazing process. I learned so much, but then also what it has had in return has been just great. And so that was, that real connection point of feeling like, okay, this is super worthwhile.
Oh yeah, that definitely helps. Like when you spent so much time doing something that when it's done and you can look at it and go, yep, all right, that was time well spent. So you've taken on this role of advisory board chair. What about the position aligns with your personal mission?
So I like connections. We're in Omaha. We get some folks out here. We have some names, but not a lot of like the bigger manufacturers have a spot out here in Omaha. Definitely better than like, say, Pikeville, Kentucky. But we don't have them all out here. So with advisory board, I like that connection that I'm able to get from me, but also the connection that I'm able to provide both to the manufacturer and to our other folks within HETMA. We're able to provide that way to get someone a seat at the table with someone they might not have ever been able to have that kind of one-on-one dialogue with. So we can get, they're still fairly small, intimate groups. Heck, we even have some manufacturers that are like, limit this to only 10 because we want to make sure we're having that very intimate conversation that we can really get people kind of one-on-one and no one is being drowned out. And to get them in there talking about what they have coming up, we just had a really good one with Laya where we were talking about, okay, what are we actually using? What do we want out of this? What are some things that we could do with our software that would be more beneficial? Getting that higher ed view, getting our voice out there, but also at the end of each of those meetings, it's like, give us your contact information so if something else comes up, we can reach out to you directly. It can be really hard just kind of calling support or calling, some random person to try and really talk through things and see, okay, let's noodle through this. How can we get this working better? What is coming up? The opportunities are just kind of endless with it. Like what we're going to be looking at doing with ScreenBeam, for example. In September, ScreenBeam will be having a certain level of release of a new product, but it's not ready for prime time yet. They're going to be doing sort of like a pre-approval process with us, getting it into the hands of some of the folks from HETMA. Take this, test it. What can we do before this is even released out to try and make it work better in higher ed? So instead of just a concept level, this is an actual hands-on level of how does this work in your spaces? What should we do before we push this out en masse? And it might be totally ready. It might be perfect. There might be nothing that we need to add. But we've got that true hands-on testing stage to try and make a difference for what's going to work for all of us moving forward. So all of those things combined really creates this unique experience, not to mention the benefit that it gives for our sponsors. I mean, they get that voice with our people, they get to connect, things that they would have never gotten as well. So it's just a really mutually beneficial track for the people that participate. And yeah, it's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, I love that that these aren't just a cookie cutter type of thing. Like each of these meetings is tailored to the needs of the incoming sponsor who's kind of heading them up. And that's I think that's a great way of doing it, as opposed to just being like, this is what you get and whatever. But yeah.
And it's, I mean, I will totally acknowledge it is still an evolving process. I kind of got, just saw that there was an opening, talked to Teddy, kind of jumped in on this December-ish is kind of when I started really taking over. And so the process has evolved and continues to evolve. And, I would hope so. Nothing should stay static. Nothing is perfect. So seeing what kind of pre-work I can do with people, what kind of post-work I can do with people to have them keep improving and have it be more targeted to what is most beneficial to everyone that's involved. I make no claim that right now it is the best it could be by any means, but to find ways that can make it, keep improving for everyone that's participating from both the sponsorship and the HETMA member side.
So for those HETMA members that haven't taken part in an advisory board meeting, what would your kind of little elevator pitch to them be to get them to join in?
So with the advisory board meetings, they are truly for anyone. I feel like some people might be worried about jumping in, not knowing, like, am I going to get a question? Am I expected to know something? Am I expected to, be something? The advisory boards are for everyone. Even just coming in, sitting there, lurking, learning, there's always something that can be learned from these. Most of these are people that we already know, love, and have on our campuses, whether it's Sony, Panasonic, Extron, you name it. We're having advisory boards with the people that have the tech on our campuses. Even if it's someone that you don't use, you might learn something about, oh, hey, maybe I could try that in this space. Maybe this is something new that I could use that's cheaper, better, more efficient, whatever. This is a way to get in and learn about technology without necessarily having to have it on your campus. But it also allows you to get in and talk to the people that are making these things to noodle things out. We have used this time sometimes to try and figure out problems that people have had. We've talked about issues that have arisen with a certain piece of technology, sometimes for them to take it back to their the manufacturer and work on it in a future implementation, a future firmware, whatever it might be, sometimes for a way that we can on the user end try and get it to work better for our spaces. So it's really kind of a win-win for everyone. You may not realize that the issue you're having, you might have someone else chime in, oh yeah, I've been having that issue too. I wasn't really sure how to follow up about it. So we build that community around these things. And like I said, you don't need to talk. You're very much welcome to talk. Everyone's voices is important here. There's no ultimate higher ed person here. Just because someone has more units of something doesn't mean that they know anything more about it than someone that's pushing only 5 of these around certain classes. It's a space that we really want to encourage everyone to come feel comfortable in, get what you can out of it, but the more you put into it, the more you will get out of it. And give us ideas and feedback, because the more participants, the more dialogue, the more that we're all kind of, the idea of rising water helps all ships float. Like, we are just kind of helping each other, and the more community we can get, the better we are for it.
That was well said, sir. Well said.
Well, thank you.
So far, what has been the most rewarding part of leading the advisory board?
Getting into the connections that I've had with some of the manufacturers, people that I never would have talked with before. Some of those lasting relationships, which I've then used, like, hey, if I'm having questions about something that they have, I now have that connection. Without being the position that I'm in, it would be harder to justify the time to spend on some of these when things are getting super crazy on campus. I know I have to be there, kind of thing. And every time, even though I've got that part of my brain that says, oh, if you weren't in this chair, you could justify not attending, like, I know I have to be there, and I get something out of it every time. So being able to go in and get some of this, and I've had, things that have come out productively for my campus from attending these meetings, and seeing what other people are asking, seeing the questions that other people are coming up with. I've learned something every time. So really, that continual growth of myself is sort of a selfish gain, if you will, but something that I'm hoping that everyone is getting out of attending those things. And we're really scheduled out with them at this point as well. At this point, for new meetings, we are looking kind of like mid-October at this point. So anyone that is wanting to schedule them this year looks very different than last year as far as availability goes. And, we did reduce the number of advisory board meetings that people get. And even still, I think we're going to come down to the wire about trying to get everyone in for as many as we can. That's my hope, is that everyone kind of gets the ones that they're guaranteed and, has that opportunity.
Absolutely. There's only 52 weeks in a year. And, and we don't want to overwhelm the higher ed folks either by trying to schedule multiple ones in a week. So I think that, the finding that one day a week, but we know that that's when it's going to be, I think it's really helped and been a benefit to this program.
I would agree. Yeah, and it's just been nice. There wasn't a ton of guardrails when I kind of took over on it, so it is a process I've kind of been able to make my own, which trying to align with the overall HETMA vision of it, but hopefully I'm pretty close there.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a wonderful job so far. So
well, thank you.
I appreciate everything you're doing. And so I know that if anyone has listened to the recently Higher Ed AV Media, the Higher Ed AV podcast had reposted a podcast that was done with Mark Coxon and Chris Netto, BC Hatchett, and Joe Way, when basically Joe and BC were first announcing HETMA as pretty much the concept and putting it out there and into the ether, and kind of just getting Mark and Chris's opinions about what this madness could mean. And kind of one of the things I think that they had talked about a little bit was the advisory boards as being something that was an important idea as part of HETMA, but it kind of was one of the programs that took a little bit more time for us to develop. And I think mostly it was because so many other programs popped in and were like, that wanted to be the attention focus. So we kind of, had to keep shifting. But now, now that we're at it and we kind of, you've gotten, to put it into a good format. How do you see the advisory boards contributing to HETMA's broader mission?
A lot of the things that I've kind of been talking about, and the thing that we're going to try and do with ScreenBeam with getting pre-release tech, I think, as another interesting thing. Approved has their testing of tech and seeing if it's approved once it's, released out there, already done. But being able to get some hands-on pre-release of things, I think really aligns with that whole idea of, having our true voice in things, accepting that higher ed as a vertical has slightly different uses for things than, you might find out in residential, than you might find out in other commercial. We might have some off-label uses for things. We might find creative ways of using things. And so continuing to ensure that higher ed has people advocating for them and making sure that we have that seat at the table and we're seen as a valuable partner to make sure that we are being heard, that we are just as worthwhile to have our opinion on how what the tech should do, what the tech should be capable of as someone at any other place. A lot of us can push some big numbers as far as how much we're ordering at any given time. But on the flip side, from the manufacturer side, making sure that they are getting that connection with our members. Instead of, there's a university, there's university, there's university. Now they can maybe know, okay, I've got an Atkins down in Texas. I've got a Teddy over at, a university in Kentucky. Getting those faces and names that we're not just a generic nameless university, but we are people that they can connect with, not necessarily just at the, okay, this is the person that covers this territory, but at an actual higher level so that they have people that they can reach out to as well. So ideally something that's mutually beneficial for all of us and continues to build that value for our HETMA members, but also for our sponsors as something that they see as a true value to their continued investment in higher ed.
Yeah, I love the kind of the crossover of approved and advisory boards almost, because when you're testing something kind of in a bubble and then you're kind of writing, filling out your rubric and making your comments and stuff, it's kind of just the what you're thinking of in that moment. Whereas adding the layer of the advisory board with it too, and everybody's kind of able to talk to each other that have tried this out, I think will lend for a lot of really great comments that maybe didn't come up originally when you were in your little testing, scenario by yourself. So I think that'll be really valuable for everybody.
We have a way of thinking outside the box.
There you go. Yeah. So looking at your career trajectory, what skills or experiences have been the most crucial in preparing you for leadership?
So honestly, a lot of what I got from social work has helped with leadership. I did do a little bit of managerial stuff when I was working in child protection, but being able to kind of keep that cool, calm, and collected, kind of regardless of the situation, has been huge. To not like, oh, hey, we have 5 cores down in this building, panic mode, but like, okay, let's start working the process. Let's break it down. How do we get, a single thing working so that we have proof of concept of what a fix is, so that we can start implementing that elsewhere. But then also being able to come up with things for different folks to be able to work on so that we can have some division of duties going on, so we're not all just fixated in one place when we might have people standing around, but thinking up those tasks that other people can be working on at the same time, so that we're doing a little bit of a divide and conquer, while also just being mindful of the people that are around me. What are their needs? Where are they at with things? How do I kind of work with things to their strengths? How do I make sure that the people around me are also taking care of themselves, not just go, burning themselves down on things? Being mindful of all of the things.
Okay. Now, what is one piece of advice you wished someone had given you earlier in your career?
So when I was looking at making the jump over to IT, in the back of my mind, there's always the social work is all right. I can do it. I'm not really happy. The concept of we work too darn much, too darn hard, too darn everything to not be happy doing it. It's such a big part of our life, and to just find the way that you've got enough of a safety net, something backing you up to be able to try and make the changes that make you more happy. Otherwise, even if you're not aware of it, you're taking that out on other people. We can't be unhappy at work and somehow still happy in the other parts of our life. Like, that comes out. And I was fortunate enough that I had enough of a safety net that I could do the things I did in a relatively fast period of time and take the risk with that change. Not everyone has that. I totally acknowledge that. But finding the little things that you can do to try and gradually work towards it within your means.
So how has your perspective on leadership evolved since you've started your professional life?
So way back in the day, back when I was I worked at a Hy-Vee, a grocery store, for almost 10 years. I ended up getting into a shift supervisor position, and it was a lot about just make the people do the things, thinking less about the people. We had a task to accomplish, get the task accomplished, get done, get out. Now that I've kind of gone through working and, found work that I enjoy doing, it's about the bigger picture. Everything is kind of the bigger picture. How do we be constantly working on improving what is Creighton University, improving what is HETMA. That might mean working some of the longer hours. That might mean that, you're not necessarily getting credit for all the things that you do, but as long as they go towards the benefit of the thing, that's sort of the thing that matters more overall. Being more mission-driven, mission mindset, to try and think of the totality instead of the how do I get mine? How do I make sure I'm taking care of myself? What is the greater good? And when you've got a job that is more fulfilling, makes you happier, like that is still very fulfilling to try and fulfill the greater mission of the organization.
So now I'm going to shift a little bit to talking about the future and your future vision. So when you envision envision your future you, let's say like 5 years from now, what do you hope you're working on or have accomplished?
So I always hope that I'm becoming more of an SME in all the things. Like when I first took my counseling job, I jumped in a supervisory position, and I hadn't done the actual work. I was just out of grad school. So to be a supervisor when you can't tell the people below you what they need to be doing, hate that. Part of me feels like a supervisor should be able to do the job of everyone that's beneath them, know how to do the job, so that if someone comes with any question, I can tell them how to do it. So it is always my goal that despite moving up, I want to know about all of the positions beneath me. I recently started slowly working on a process of going out to places that are tangential to the learning environments that I work in to try and learn about the job that they do. So like I'm going to go spend a few hours with someone who's an instructional designer because it's tangential enough that I want to see what kind of their job looks like. I've got a concept, but I don't really see the day-to-day inner workings of what they do. I want to do that for a lot of different places around me. Go spend some time with networking, go spend some time with architects, go spend some time with all these different departments so that I've got this better idea of how to collaborate with them to, talk to my team about what it is that those folks do so they have a better idea, a better concept, kind of spread that message beyond me, while ideally kind of continuing to keep working my way up here at Creighton, and to then have, whether I end up working closer with those places or whatever, then I've got that better idea of what they do, while also continuing to increase my knowledge of everything that we directly touch within our department.
Yeah. So what legacy do you want to leave in higher education technology?
Ideally that, the efforts that I have done, helped stand up, have helped improve the environment for all, and that we've created some stable things that help make our work more efficient. So like I said, GVE, I helped stand that up. Just a couple nights ago, I worked on standing up a trial of QSys Reflect, but the idea that we might get that, so that we've got more of that remote visibility into classrooms, working through, like bot boxes, so that we've got the ability to remotely reboot things that are not necessarily IP controlled. Working on, I have a meeting this afternoon with Craig Underwood to talk about his experience testing Excite for the approved program, to look at whether we would want to try and have Excite here on campus. Getting all the technology that we have so that it is IP touching, so we can do as much of the remote stuff as possible. So the idea is that we can fix as much as we can before we ever get there. B, that we're doing less. I mean, I still want folks to go to rooms to try and talk to people, to have that personal connection, but that maybe the thing was fixed before they ever got there, so that they can just say, yep, make sure things are okay in here. But to continue to expand that concept as far as possible, so that we're getting faster fixes, it's easier, folks know how to do it, getting everyone instructed on it, to just kind of increase that stability and quality of experience for everyone on the whole. And if I can be remembered for helping stand up any of that, so be it. But even if not, just that it's a better experience for everyone here on campus.
So if someone's listening and they're trying to find their own true north, what would you tell them? Or, yeah.
Think about things that are a challenge for you right now. What are problems that you are dealing with? Maybe what are problems that people on your team are dealing with? And start thinking about, in counseling, they talk about the magic wand question, where you may wave a magic wand and your problem is gone. How would you know that your problem is gone? What does it look like when you've reached your solution? That really solution-focused therapy kind of thing, where, okay, so now you can envision what it looks like when things are better. So what do we need to do to get from A to B? Start exploring what that A to B looks like for you, even if it's small things, even if it's super incremental. Look at what you can do to try and get to a position that you want to be in, and try and have those realistic goals that you can work through in the process.
Absolutely. Excellent. And so, what is one thing about the advisory boards or HETMA in general that you think more people should know?
I think just the idea that it's for anyone in higher ed. I mean, even if you're not necessarily a manager, even if you're, just someone new into the field working tier 0, everything is about connections. Everything is about having people that you can know to go to. When I started, and I talked about it on Joe's podcast, like I knew nothing about the AV world. I knew none of the people, but I just went out and found his podcast, and that started getting me names, that started getting me people, that started getting me concepts, and just finding those little seeds that I could kind of build from to grow and learn more. And anywhere that you can get those little seeds planted so that you can try and keep building up, getting more knowledge, getting more connections, getting people you can go to when something comes up, just getting yourself out there and finding the different sources of information that you can get so that you can keep growing and moving forward. And that is for anyone. Just knowing that everyone is welcome, everyone is here. There's a benefit for everyone to gain by being here, not just for managers. I mean, look at our chairs. It's not like we just have CIOs or anything by any means. HETMA is for everyone.
Love that. Love that. So before we wrap up, what's keeping you excited about the future of higher ed technology right now?
I like I said, I love college campus stuff. Just kind of the feel of the environment, the idea that things are always changing. I mean, 10 years ago, you would have no idea about what we have now. Heck, back in 2019, you wouldn't know what we would have by the end of 2020. There's always new things to learn. There's always people trying things in different ways. There's never a resting on your laurels. There's just always something more. And there's just amazing people out here. Like, people talk about how, yes, universities maybe, Iowa versus Iowa State, or, we got to, get the students. For us, I can talk to anyone from any university and we're peers. Like, there's that information sharing and the idea of partnership, even though we're at totally different institutions. That is just a wonderful and unique environment that we're in.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris, for being willing to be my first guest.
Yay, guinea pig.
Right. I mean, I absolutely appreciate you sharing your story and your insights and your passion for higher education technology with us, and your dedication to HETMA and our community. It's truly inspiring. And I know our listeners have gained valuable perspective from hearing about your journey.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, if curious about any more, I have recorded on Brave Space with Brett, AVIT Amplifier with Ryan, and Higher Ed AV Podcast with Joe. So all of those give some more information about me, but also each of them had dedicated sections talking about the advisory board as well. So some more information can obviously be gleaned about them from there.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure that we put some contact information down in the show notes so that if you want to reach out to either one of us, you can.
And never hesitate to reach. It doesn't have to be some big grandiose question, like just to get those connections going. I always love to have more people that I have connections with, even if it's something small, like I've mentioned my bucket list of climbing to the high point of every state for. Heck, just reach out about that. Like, just talk, connect. We far too often fall into silos and isolation, and we have a wonderful network out there of people that are in the exact same situations. So just reach out.
Absolutely. Like, especially if you're on the HETMA community, using the chat feature, like, love it. I love hearing from people. So to everyone listening, I hope this conversation has given you something to think about as you consider your own true north and the path forward towards your future you, whether it's reflecting on your personal purpose, exploring leadership opportunities, or simply finding new ways to connect with our amazing HETMA community. Remember that every journey starts with that first step. So if today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. So absolutely connect with us on the HETMA online community, reach out to me directly, or better yet, consider how you might get more involved with HETMA yourself. Our organization thrives because members who step up and share their experience and help build something bigger than any of us could create alone. So next month, I'll be sitting down with another incredible HETMA leader to explore next month's theme, Merging Lanes, Connect to Grow. So make sure you're subscribed to the HETMA Presents channel to make sure that you don't miss out on that. Until then, keep building, keep connecting, and keep moving towards your true north. I'm Erin Maher-Moran, and this has been Chair to Chair. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to HETMA Presents. This show is a production of Higher Ed AV Media. Please visit higheredav.com to learn more about this show and a host of others. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. We'll be back soon with another installment of HETMA Presents.